YouTubers, Mike Martin's here, Mike Martin's channel, bringing you another hard-hitting article from the housing crisis here, my housing crisis edition. Thanks for following and commenting below. A lot of people are weighing in on this, a lot of people being affected by not being able to own a house, a lot of people, it's the biggest talked about topic in all of the English-speaking world, and there's very little to no one covering this damn topic, which is like private people, like just people like me, just nobody's covering it and trying to gain attention from people. It's really sad that some of the bigger players are not weighing in on this, right? Maybe because they already own their own houses and they probably don't care. But anyways, let's go. Big bank credit ratings under threat from rising property household debt. Oh yeah. This one's taking us out to Australia. And Australia, people living in Canada and New Zealand, watch it real close because Australia is one of the very few countries that's put zero to no measures in place to cool down the market. And it's piping, it's piping, and it's piping. Let's take a look here. Australia's banks could have their standalone credit ratings cut by Standard and Poor's if household debt outpaces economic growth by 5 percentage points, or if house price growth outpaces the inflation rate by more than 4 percentage points. In a stark warning by the credit rating agency, which already has the major banks at AA negative credit ratings on a negative outlook, it said that the economic risk was on the rise in Australia, which may force it to downgrade Australia's banks. The move would not result in automatic downgrade of the AA negative rating, as the banks benefit from the so-called too big to fail support afforded them by the government, which is rated AAA. It goes on to really interesting here. The nation's AAA credit rating was, however, placed on negative outlook in July 2016. I remember that article. I read about that back in July. And it should be cut. The rating of the banks would fall in sync. While a cut to the paper, a rating appeared imminent last year, the downgrade threat appears to have eased for now, as a strong rebound in commodity prices has boosted national income. S&P senior bank analyst Shardjin said rising private sector debt and house prices were the two key indicators of economic risk that the agency tracked. While S&P gets monthly updates on private sector debt, its main source of property price trends from the Australia Bureau of Statistics, which releases data less frequently. So you're not getting the full picture, eh? S&P reviews its banks and country risk assessment scores at least once a year, with the most recent assessment completed in late October. So that's not too long ago. Mr. Jain said that while economic risk was rising in Australia, it remained relatively low. But he said that the economic imbalances needed to be considered in the context of external imbalances. Australia remains an exporter of capital, predominantly via its banks, which amplified the impact of an internal shock. Sorry, guys. The ratings agency comments echo growing concerns among the policymakers, including Reserve Bank of Australia Governor Philip Lowe, that a buildup in the household debt needs to be managed. So it goes back to what 3, 4, 5 stories ago I did about people taking out. It's happening in New Zealand, where they're taking out the equity in their homes and buying gigantic ticket items, huge ticket items, and they're living. There was one I couldn't remember who the politician said that all you have to do is own own a house in Australia, and you have it good, you have it easy, because basically people now feed off the equity off their homes, which is a very strong trend. When I was a kid, my dad wouldn't touch the house. The house was paid. You don't touch the house. That's where we live. You don't screw with the house. And like myself, I'm looking generations ahead. I'm never going to touch the equity in my house, ever. Because I want to look 2, 3 generations ahead to make sure 2, 3 generations ahead are taken care of. Now, The imbalances and the external imbalances they're talking about is a huge economic risk in Australia because they're banking on a lot of shadow, like a lot of shadow underlying deals and that are happening. You know, with a lot of a lot of speculators and foreign investors coming in, and banks allowing to bend over backwards and allow certain criteria that would never be allowed 10, 15 years ago, or wouldn't be allowed to be done or help up Australian proper. A proper Australian wouldn't get that help from the bank. They would help more foreign interests to help bring in more capita. I don't know if that makes sense. But like I said, the big bad banks, what are they up to? Where are they going to go? This article is by Jonathan Shapiro. Thanks for writing it, bud. It's a really well-written article. Let me know what you guys think. Things are getting really technical. Things are starting to hit the fan, and Australia is one country you want to sit back, have the popcorn, have some Run DMC playing It's Tricky on the background while this happens, as this comes to a screeching halt. Let me know. Weigh in if you're in Australia. Let me know what you feel, how the big banks are treating you guys down there. Give us some big bank stories, please. Tell me some big bank stories. You went to the bank, you needed something, or you needed some help, and the bank turned its back on you. It happens all the time. And especially banks you've been with all your life, and your parents and your grandparents been all their lives. Thanks for watching, guys. Comment below. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button.